All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. I have Andy Swan from Bethany Christian Services, and
Cheryl Williams.
And we're going to be talking about the great things that Bethany Christian Services does. So just hang on, we're going live in a couple of minutes. And again, just hang on. All right. I don't have time to prep, but it's fine. You don't need to prep. I'll have you introduce yourselves, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Can everybody hear?
I can barely hear. A little bit more. Tone's going down.
All right, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to another edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. As always, I hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope you had some great conversations. I hope you found some new insight over the weekend because, hey, it's always a new day, and you always can learn something new. I know that over the weekend, I learned a big lesson in company morale and the difference it can make and whether it can make or break a company. But that's for another day, another topic. Today, we're going to talk about family units and, the new way that adoption agencies and things of that magnitude are changing the face of what we think about when we think about foster care and adoption centers and things of that magnitude. So today, I have two special guests in the studio with me today. My first guest is Miss Andi Swan from Bethany Christian Services. Say hi to the people.
Hello.
And my second guest, because she came in with her, and I should have known this, but it happens sometimes, but it's all good. Introduce yourself.
My name is Cheryl Williams.
All right, so I have Andy Swan and Miss Cheryl Williams, and they are both from Bethany Christian Services. So I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves, and we'll go from there as always. So, Andy?
So my name is Andi, and my role with Bethany Christian Services is pretty specialized. I'm the only one in our entire state of Georgia that does what I do. My title is the Director of Donor Engagement, and that's because Bethany Christian Services is a 501c3 nonprofit, and you'll learn a little bit more about our services here in a minute, but we offer more services to the community than we bill for. So our pregnancy support services are completely donor funded for foster care recruitment to recruit and train new foster families. And then for some of our adoptions, we even have a scholarship fund. So my role with Bethany is to raise the funds to support those programs and to fill that gap. So
you're the money lady.
You're
You're the money lady. You bring in the money.
Exactly.
So she brings in all the money. So she's a vital part, I'm sure. And I think that we forget about nonprofits that money does make a difference, and those that watch the show know that I started out talking about nonprofits and how to start them and things of that magnitude, and I specifically had to go into fundraising because your nonprofit will not survive without some level of fundraising, whether it be grants or whether it be personal donors or whatever the case may be. So it's definitely a vital part of any nonprofit organization. So tell us about you.
Yes, my name is Cheryl, and I am the Assistant Branch Director over Pre-Permanency Services with Bethany Christian Services. And so what that means is I oversee a lot of services where we provide training as well as out-of-home support to children that come into foster care. We currently serve about 150 children that are in foster care in Georgia. We have locations around the state. Our biggest program is here in the Atlanta area. We also have a program in the Athens area. We have services, foster care services in Columbus, also in the Region 3 area, which is Rome. And so we really work in partnership with the state to develop families that are able to nurture and love on children that have a trauma history. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I do at Bethany. And then we also have several contracts with the state to provide training to foster families because, as we know, parenting is hard in and of itself, but parenting children that have been abused and neglected takes a really special person that has really special skills. And so Bethany is very committed to making sure families are prepared to deal with the issues that children that have a trauma history are going to bring to their families.
All right, so tell me about Bethany. What is Bethany? When did it get started? What does it do exactly?
So the mission statement of Bethany is to demonstrate the love and compassion of Jesus Christ by protecting and enhancing the lives of families and children.
All right, hold on.
That's
Can I,
big.
Scott? Can I get an applause for that? Can I get an applause for that? Okay, Scott's not paying attention because he should have been ready to give me an applause, but I needed an applause. Already, I gotta have an applause. Yes. I did that because here I talk about mission statements all the time, and I tell people about elevator pitches. You never know when you're going to be in an elevator with somebody important, and you get a matter of seconds to tell them about your organization or your company. So it's best to memorize your mission statement, and then if they give you the opportunity to expound upon it, you can. So the fact that you were able to rattle that off, bravo! I am impressed. I'm happy. I'm excited. See, this is why I know to get the great guests. So, all right, continue. I just had to throw that. Everybody knows how I'm about mission statements and elevator pitches. I am very big. It's the MBA in me. I'm very big about that stuff. So, carry on.
I know your enthusiasm is not appreciated.
You know, I people downplay me. I'm like a little rabbit. I don't know how to keep going. You know, they don't do it. But I digress.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's our mission statement. That's really a broad view. So we have 4 main lines of service, and the ones that most are familiar with is adoption, because that's what Bethany Christian Services of USA has done the longest. We were founded in 1944 in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Really?
And it was started specifically as a children's home. It started with 1 child, and then over a period of about 8 years, it grew to 25 children. And then we have just grown beyond that. We have Bethany branches in 38 states. We have over 120 locations in the United States, and we even work in 15 countries outside the United States.
Okay, wait. So, is there a headquarters, Bethany, that...
Yes, it's still in the founding community of Grand Rapids, Michigan. So that's where our corporate headquarters is. It's very large, but Georgia, Bethany, is second only to our corporate location. So we
Really?
have a very large branch here in Georgia.
So where is the branch in Georgia, the headquarters here? Where is it located?
So, as Cheryl was mentioning, we have 5 bricks and mortar locations across the state, but our home office is in Sandy Springs off of Peachtree Dunwoody Road.
Wow. All right, so is each one a franchise type thing, or is it like one corporate that gives derivatives to each in particular branch? How does that work?
So we are what is called a bona fide branch. So we are united by the same mission statement. We share all the same types of bylaws. We all have the same employee handbook, but Georgia has its own staff, its own executive director, and our own board of directors. So we are sort of like a franchise. You could think about it that way. And then our Georgia locations are just an extension. We are all one family. When we have an all-staff meeting, we all meet together as a unit.
This is crazy. I did not know this organization was that big.
It's a common response.
I mean, okay, so everybody pay attention, because this is one of the larger nonprofits. You know, we talk about the small ones all the time and the things they do, but this is a more uniformed and bigger type of nonprofit. So, okay, so you said there was 4 mainstreams.
Mm-hmm.
Do that again for me.
All right, so adoption is what we've been doing since the onset in the 40s, and then shortly thereafter, foster care services was added. So that is by far our largest program here in Georgia. And Cheryl talked about state foster care, but we have really specialized foster care that she'll talk about, I'm sure, in just a second. And there are some agencies that really only work with small children, maybe in the 1 to 4 age range. Well, Bethany has no limitations. We really fight for what we consider the most vulnerable children in our society. So that means those that have been in foster care a long time, if they have advanced physical or mental needs, or if they're a sibling group larger than 2. So we've even had 2 foster care adoptions this year that were sibling groups of 5.
I remember you told me that. Like,
Yeah.
and again, now with this particular show, we're going against the grain, because in most of our minds, especially people my age, which I'm not telling, you know, we think of foster care and we think of these, you know, these cartoons where these kids are treated badly and they're just kind of placed and they're torn from their families and things of that magnitude. And with the thing I like about Bethany is what you just said, that you guys were able to place a family of what, 5?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
5 siblings.
so I want everybody to understand that's listening that there were 5 siblings. They did not tear them apart. They placed them all in one home. So this is the kind of things, you know, that Bethany is destroying that paradigm of thought that, you see those visions of kids being ripped apart and sent to 6 different places, they're actually able to do these kinds of things. But carry on,
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
We like to break it down for the listeners so they can understand. Again, today's show is about breaking that paradigm of thought that there is different services that do offer, better options for foster care, adoption, things of that magnitude. So you guys, to me, and my listener, because I didn't know you guys existed until the Now meeting, are breaking that paradigm of thought. So that's really what I want to do today, to show people the alternatives and the options. But carry on.
Yeah, so kind of in that same vein, we make sure to uplift and train our families lots up front, and that extends into our birth parents. So we have a full kind of realm of services for pregnancy support. So if there's a young woman that has an unplanned or a crisis pregnancy, we have a full team of pregnancy counselors that are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And they can text to talk, they can get in touch with them through our website, which is bethany.org, or they can also call an 800 hotline number and get in touch with one of our pregnancy counselors, and they walk them through different options, whether to parent or adopt. That's the only ones that we really counsel on, and we're not allowed to coerce them or lead them in any direction, but they do share with them the different things that they need to think about and connect them with the resources that they need if they decide to parent or if they decide to create an adoption plan for their child. So we have pregnancy support, adoption, foster care, and then our last line of service is our clinical services. And we have a full team of clinical therapists. Some of them are actually in our location in Atlanta. Some of them meet with the families in the home. We also have some really great church partners throughout greater Atlanta, where they devote office space in their church building so that our clinicians can meet with families in an actual fixed location instead of being in the home. So there's all different ways that our clinical services are delivered. But my favorite program is called ADOPS, and it's an acronym, and it is Address the Distress of Post-Traumatic Stress.
We love acronyms on this show. We love acronyms, especially when you can tell us what they mean. We love acronyms. So let's do that one again.
Exactly.
So
Address the Distress of Post-Traumatic Stress. And it is trauma-informed counseling. It's very adoption-informed, and it's specifically offered for adoptive parents that they've had a child that's been placed with them, and it's a full-term adoption. But children, even if they're adopted as an infant, go through a period of grief and loss. And so it is to support those families if they're having challenges with any children that have been adopted, even if they did not adopt through Bethany Christian Services. So they can come to us from other agencies as well.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So do y'all partner with any other agencies in that aspect, so they may cross over people that they maybe not be able to give them the attention they need?
Yeah, we receive referrals from hospitals. Sometimes, unfortunately, the child may have had some psychiatric issues, and so sometimes psychiatric hospitals will refer them to us.
We also get referrals from the Department of Family and Children's Services. A lot of times they are very overwhelmed with their caseloads, and so in order for families to get services in a timely manner, they will refer them to us to go through a process.
Okay, well, so that's our first segment. I'm overwhelmed because I didn't realize all this stuff, so y'all have to excuse me. I'm a little overwhelmed myself. It's a great thing. So when we come back, we're going to talk more with Andi, and we're going to let Cheryl chime in when we come back from the break. So stick around on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. All right, ladies, so we got through the first segment, and I'm getting all my technology going. So I finally have my YouTube channel going. I finally got Facebook to go again. So y'all are on YouTube, Facebook, the radio, SoundCloud, TuneIn, iHeart. Yeah, we're all over the place. So I'm getting it. Yeah, I'm getting it.
Seriously, our big struggle is brand awareness, because you're just like most people.
Yeah, I had no
never heard of us.
idea. All right, so for you guys that are just tuning in on Facebook and on YouTube, I have Andi Swan and Miss Cheryl over here. They are from Bethany Christian Services, and we are talking about their great programs, their great services. Met Andi at the, I always get this acronym wrong. It's Networking Opportunity
Weekly.
I think that's it. Networking. Networking Opportunity Weekly. I never know. I just know it's a spin-off of the Married at Business Association. So Christina Barth, who was here a couple of weeks ago, has now become chair over it. But that's how I met Andy, and she stood up. We get 60 seconds each. And we get to tell about our business in those 60 seconds. And Andy stood up, and I was just enthralled with what she said. So we had a meeting, and I thought she'd be a great fit because, again, it's about changing that paradigm of thought when it comes to foster care, adoptions, things of that magnitude. And they have great services. And most of you that tuned in for the first segment realized I was a little slow. Well, primarily because they were late, but I digress. Primarily because they were late, but I digress.
It's true.
They were late.
Yes.
They were late, but you know,
Atlanta traffic.
so it kind of threw me. Yeah, that's what Cheryl's story. She's sticking to it. It kind of threw me off. But you know, it's great because again, you know, there's this paradigm of thought, and like I said, I always go back to, especially my generation. You know, kids getting torn apart from families and just kind of thrown places. Because a lot of times the government agencies are overrun, so they do the best that they can. So shouts out to social workers and case workers and all that great stuff because you guys are doing a great job. But yeah, we're gonna go back now to our second segment. All right, we are back on the Leadership Blend with your host Ricardo D. Rice and my very special guest, Miss Andi Swan, and Miss Cheryl, who works in conjunction with Miss Andi Swan. So going into this, leaving the first segment, we were talking about the acronym ADOPTS.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start from there.
So our ADOPTS program is specifically, it's adoption-informed trauma counseling. So we have clinicians that work with adoptive parents that have a child who's maybe struggling, because children are really resilient. Whenever they're in an abusive or neglectful situation, they can last and last, but they also internalize it and they start to think, I deserve this, I'm a bad kid, and that's why this is happening to me. So when they're in a loving family, they might act out because they don't understand how to be in a family where they're being loved and cared for. And so our ADOPTS therapists really help the families work through that. They have lots of ways that children can manage their anger and how they can work through conflict. And one of our best success stories is a young man, and I can't share his name with you, but I can share a little bit about kind of his success.
We'll call him Mystery D.
Mystery D.
Mystery D. We'll call him Mystery D.
So he was really having some difficult time and was becoming sometimes a danger to himself. And so one of our clinicians started seeing him about twice a week, and again was not adopted through Bethany, through another organization. It was adopted internationally and was referred to us. And so at first he wasn't able to share something that he was proud of himself for. And that's one thing that she does in every single session, is she has a pride wall where they write something that they're proud of themselves about. And he just would struggle, couldn't come up with any reason that he was proud of himself. And so she knew that they were really making a breakthrough one day when he came in and he said, "Can I write 3 things on my pride wall?" Oh. And she was overjoyed and said, "Of course you can." And so he was proud of himself that he was learning to deal with his anger. So he was using some of the methods that she had coached him through, and then that he was moving from picture books to chapter books. And he had a younger adopted sister as well, and he was even teaching her some ways to deal with her anger. So it was a very, very big breakthrough. Nice. So that's just an example of those services that we offer.
Okay, all right. All right, so Miss Cheryl.
Yes, sir.
So we know that Andy's role is one of those vital roles because, like,
Yes.
again, money makes the world go round,
That's
whether you
right.
have a nonprofit or a for-profit. So tell me your day-to-day activities. Like, what do you do?
Absolutely. Well, in foster care, no day is the same, it feels like.
I can only imagine.
Yes, exactly. We have kids coming into the foster care system on a day-to-day basis. Right now, the state of Georgia has over 14,000 children that are in Georgia's foster care system.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious.
Good
And
God.
children are coming in every day, and unfortunately, the state does not have enough foster homes to place these children in. And so we're in a huge crisis. And so we, at one point, had to place children in hotels because we didn't have enough approved foster homes. And so that's one of Bethany's roles, is to come in and partner with the state to try to develop homes in the areas in which they are really finding kids are coming into foster care at a higher rate.
Okay, wait a minute, press pause.
Yes.
So, you're fine, I do that a lot. Because I want to break it down, so I want to
Okay,
make sure we
yeah,
get it.
please.
So they were placing them in hotels?
Yes.
Like with temporary parents in a room, or they were placing these kids in a room,
Well,
I mean,
no,
a secured floors, of course, but...
Exactly. No, they were placed with case managers, with DFACS case managers that would have to stay in the hotel room with the child until a foster home was available and ready to take that child. Which I know is not the best place. I mean, they're being taken out of their home where they know and placed in a hotel room with somebody they don't know.
Well, it's about the process. I'm just like, that process, how long, I mean, I'm sure that's not a fast process. So you're talking about a caseworker being, I don't want to say stuck, but tethered to this child for an ungodly amount of time, I'm sure.
Well, and they really do try to find a home that's available relatively quickly once the child has to go to the hotel. So usually it's a couple of days, but we don't want a child to have to stay in a hotel room for one night. We really prefer them to go into an approved foster home that's able to really nurture them and help them through this major trauma of being taken out of their birth family home. Absolutely. So one of the things that is very important to us as an agency and as a state is that we want to make sure that we're placing kids in foster homes that are in or near their home community. Because being taken into foster care, a lot of times that means that the child's going to have to change schools. They're not going to be able to see their friends if they're placed in a region outside of the community that they grew up in. And so Bethany has really been committed to developing homes in certain regions so that kids don't have to be placed in foster care 4 and 5 hours away from their birth home.
Okay, but in that vein, do you guys get involved in TPRs as well? Terminating parental rights and them being that close to maybe a bad environment? Does that factor in?
Absolutely. We work in partnership with the Department of Family and Children's Services in terms of helping that birth family meet their case plan goals so that that child can be reunified. But if the birth family is not working on their case plan goals and are not meeting the time frames in which they need to be reunified with their child, then yes, Bethany will go to court and usually will have to testify as to what's happening in the case and how the child's doing for that judge to make that determination as to whether or not termination of parental rights needs to happen.
I know everybody's shocked. Nobody knew I knew that word.
I know, I'm very impressed.
I saw Cheryl's face. She was like, I didn't know you knew what that word meant. I just want to say shout out to Dr. Joan A. Humans. She was a guardian ad litem and made me hang out with her.
Oh,
so
good.
that's how I know what TPR means.
Very
Yes, I'm a man of many
good.
talents. Many talents.
Very talented, yes, and you used it correctly and everything.
You know, I was thinking about it. I was like, wait a minute, I think TPR comes in handy here.
That's right.
I think that comes in handy here.
That's
So shout out to
right.
Dr. Joan Humans for imparting that knowledge to me, so I would know when I sat on the stage with these two phenomenal ladies what some of these terms mean. Great day. All right, so the 4 services that you guys offer, let's walk me through one of those services, like from start to finish. How does it start? Let's do the pregnancy one. A random person calls in. Show me how that works.
So there is a team of pregnancy counselors, and one of them is on call all the time. So they alternate through. So a young woman can either go on the website and request a call back. She can call a hotline, or she can text to talk.
Oh, really?
So, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
she can even text to talk. And so if let's say she chooses the hotline number, she calls the 800 number, it's connected automatically to whatever pregnancy counselor is on call at that time. And
Okay.
so
Now are these like what's them things called? Call centers where they could be in India and paint their toenails and they get a call. I like to have fun. So they sitting in India painting their toenails and the call comes through. And I mean they can help them. I'm just saying. Or are these actual people in Atlanta, in Sandy Springs, picking up the phone? Just for
I
curiosity's
appreciate
sake.
the question.
You
Yes,
know.
I understand.
I asked the
Never
question
heard-
that the listeners can't ask.
That's right.
Yes, if someone is really frustrated and doesn't know what they're going to do next, we want to connect them with the help as soon as possible. So our pregnancy counselors are on staff at Bethany Christian Services of Georgia, and they're assigned to a region. So wherever that young woman is calling from, she will be connected with the pregnancy counselor in her region that's on call. So whenever we're talking about region, it's not like southeast, it is that part of the state of Georgia.
Okay,
So
that's what I was getting at.
the goal is for them to have a face-to-face meeting with them within 2 hours. So,
Oh, okay.
and that is entirely up to that young woman. If she wants to meet face-to-face, if she wants to talk over the phone, if she just wants some resources, they have absolute control over that situation. And so let's say that they had never considered adoption before, and they call and they are connected with one of our pregnancy counselors. They meet with her in person. They have a lot of questions. So what are some questions that you think that a young woman might have if she's approaching an organization like Bethany?
Oh, good way to turn it around on me. Wow, this is unscripted, so I wasn't really prepared for that, but I think I can whip up something. I call in and I'm in an abusive relationship, and I just found out I'm pregnant, and I don't have anywhere to go, but I got to get out. So what would I say? I mean, what would happen?
Well, most of them want to know, will I ever see my child again? Will I get to pick the parents? Do I have any say in how much I see them? And so those are the types of questions that they walk through, and then they also address their immediate needs as well. So in that situation, they're going to be looking for safe housing. They're going to be looking for some type of financial assistance. And so those are all conversations that the pregnancy counselor would have with the young woman at that point. So the answer to the preliminary questions is Bethany is a huge advocate for open adoption. And because that has been shown to have the most long-term success with a child. So that's really, if a family is looking for an agency that really supports open adoption.
All right, define open adoption for those who don't know.
So open adoption is where there is some communication between the birth parent and the child. And the birth parent really gets to have a lot of say, and it can even be partially open, which just means calls and letters every once in a while. Some of our birth moms that have a fully open adoption, they go and spend holidays, they're able to visit, and there's just tremendous amount of connection still between them and the child, and it's very fully supported by the adopted family.
All right, so let me ask a very hard question, and I didn't get to prep, so hopefully this won't go left. Hope this won't go left, because usually when my guests come in, I ask them, is there anything that you don't want to talk about that are off limits? Okay, so I don't think this would be too harsh. Because Bethany has Christian in it, when the issue of abortion comes up, how is that handled?
So we only discuss life-affirming options with our young women. So we will not make the choice to refer them to an agency that performs an abortion. We work hand in hand with pregnancy resource centers. And so if they choose to parent, that's something where we would really refer them to our pregnancy resource centers. But we really only support parenting or adoption.
Okay, just wanted to get that out. Get that out of the way, because I'm sure people were wondering about that because it has Christian. I remember we spoke about that, about having the Christian in it, and people not knowing which direction that could go into. Okay, so we got past the initial. We understand what she wants to do. Let's say she wants to have an open adoption. So where will we go from there?
So then she gets to select a family, unless she opts out. Some of them don't want to have any part in actually selecting the family, but that's very rare. So our adoptive families, they come through a process and they attend an orientation, they go through a home study. So one of our adoption specialists would go to their home and look at everything, make sure they've got all their child safety
safety knobs and the cabinet holders and yeah.
And they do an extensive review of how prepared they are their finances in order, and all different types of steps leading up to that. And then they create a profile book, and it is literally their love story. If they have homegrown children, that's what we call them in our biz.
Wait a minute. What is it? That sounds like some kind of plant. What is a homegrown child? What is that?
If they already have biological children.
Okay.
So
I thought it was a plant. I was about to get excited. I was like, there are plants involved in this? Okay, carry on.
Yeah, if they've already had children of their own, how many, what their family makeup looks like, what their family history is. And so our birth moms look at those profile books and they select the family they actually want to place their child with.
Okay. All right, so you said the goal, when they call into the hotline, the goal is to have a personal meeting within, you said, 2 hours? 2 days?
Within 2 hours.
Okay, so they will give them the address and they will come in to one of the centers?
They don't have to. They've met at Arby's or Starbucks. That all of that is left up to the birth mom, where she feels safe, where they want to meet with her.
Okay, all right, so we're going to go into our third break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Cheryl and Andy about some more services that they offer. So stick around, the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. Okay, so we good? We all right? I like to have fun. I'm informative, but I like to have fun. You know, I want to keep the listeners. I don't want to bore you guys.
That's right.
So, you know, I want to make sure that we have a little fun and throw some things in. Things of that magnitude.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's... I'm trying to get this picture, so every time I ask a question, it makes this picture a little less broad and less big. So there's adoption, there is foster care. Is that the same thing? Foster care, adoption? Is that the same thing?
Adoption is permanent. So where she is over foster care, it's called pre-permanency. Adoption is permanency. So adoption is forever, ideally. Foster care is temporary.
Okay. All right, but see, you know, the Facebook Live people, which I have to have running again. So Facebook Live people, you know, in between breaks, y'all get little nuggets. So explain that again. So we were just talking about the difference between adoption and foster care. So what's the difference?
So adoption is permanent, ideally. Foster care is temporary. And then sometimes foster care, where there is a termination of parental rights issued, then it leads to adoption. So then it's foster care adoption. And it's a blend of the two. Yeah.
I have some medals for you guys when y'all leave because the stuff that y'all deal with. Yeah, I couldn't. Again, shout out to social workers, case workers, working in DSS, all those places. I commend you. I'm gonna have to do a whole show on that because clearly it's going in conjunction with this. So I'm overwhelmed right now. But when we come back from break, we're going to talk more about some of the other services. And like I said, y'all know I like to walk people through what their processes look like so that people know, so I can know. Because I've encountered kids, young ladies with my nonprofit who have come up pregnant and didn't know what to do. So definitely. And we'll talk about new talent. You know, how you guys hire, what you guys looking for. So I have some friends who are getting ready to graduate with masters in psychology and stuff of that magnitude. You know, so what, you know, you might be looking for in new talent. So we'll talk about those things. But we're going back from break. All right, everybody, we are back from break. Today we're talking to Andi and Cheryl from Bethany Christian Services. And when we were leaving, we were going through the process of a young mother who may call the hotline, and what that process looks like to get her the resources and the help that she needs. But while we were on break, I asked a question and I think it was very insightful. So I'm going to ask it again, and I'm going to let Andi or Cheryl answer again. So when we were on break, I was asking I was trying to name the services, which is embarrassing. I couldn't, so I'm embarrassed, but it's fine. As long as you guys got it, that's
There
all
you
that matters.
go.
I can always call these two and get it if I need it.
That's right.
But I came across adoption and foster care. And I was like, is that the same thing or is that something different? And the response was...
So adoption is permanent, long-term. Foster care is designed to be temporary. So the state really would like to reunite the child with their birth family, but sometimes that does not happen. And so then a termination of parental rights is issued, or TPR, and then it becomes foster care adoption. So foster care becomes permanent.
And I told them I have a couple of medals waiting for them when they leave the station because the fact that they do this and understand these concepts and these terminologies, I am amazed. But again, Joan Newman showed me all this stuff so she could rattle it off at a moment's notice. I digress. All right, so she's gotten the portfolio with all these selective parents or the options that she has. So what is the process? So like I said, she's chosen a family, and they are family XY. And so where do they go from there?
So she has to carry the baby to full term, hopefully, and then whenever it is delivered in the hospital, pregnancy counselors stay involved with her even 6 weeks after the baby is delivered. So
Okay, so let me ask a question in that. So what if her surroundings are not good? Can Bethany place her somewhere else until the baby's born, or do they connect her with government agencies to keep her comfortable till the baby's born? What are the options?
it's not necessarily government agencies, but there's domestic violence shelters that we partner with that we really highly recommend. And so we can give her a referral to those locations. And whenever it comes time for her to deliver, then she would spend that time in the hospital, and that is her choice as well.
Does she interact with family XY during that process?
Yeah, if she wants to. Some of them choose to, some of them choose not to. Most of them like to meet the family that they're going to place their child with forever.
I
so,
should hope.
Yeah.
I should hope.
Yeah, so there's all different ways, and we've seen a tremendous amount of love, a lot of reconciliation and healing happen during that time, and where they really share with her that she is welcome, that is her child, and they have the honor of raising that child, and they also recognize that it's a courageous decision that she's making. And one that is best for the baby as well. And so it's a very beautiful picture of grace and of support. So whenever she delivers the baby, she actually has, in the state of Georgia, it differs state by state, but she has 10 days to change her mind. It's called the right of rescission. So there's no type of exchange of funds between the family and the birth mom, because Bethany wants her to make that decision completely independent. Based off of what is best for herself and the baby.
I was going to ask that. Are they allowed to not necessarily interfere, but to, let's say that the family meets her, falls in love with her, and is like, oh, we want you to stay with us until the baby's born. Are they allowed to do that, or?
I don't know the answer to that question. My instinct says no, but
That's what I was thinking.
wanna
I don't
discount
think
that.
they're able to, because that's kind of persuasive in
Yes.
nature. So I didn't think so. I wasn't sure, so I thought I would toss that question out there. But okay, so the baby's born. Do you guys get involved in the paperwork aspect of it to make sure all this is solidified?
Yes, we have to. We have kind of already identified attorneys that do all of the adoption paperwork, because it is a long legal process. And a lot of people ask about the cost of adoption. And so a tremendous amount of that is legal fees. Because of working with, because this is in no way relatable, except just to help you understand. But if you've ever bought a house and you're signing over the title of a house, you know
We
there's
just
a-
covered real estate for the last 3 weeks, so I actually have a little understanding about that. Carry on.
Yeah, so there's a lot of legal fees and stuff that has to be done through the court system, even just to buy a house. So imagine how much
Yeah.
greater it is whenever you're transferring rights for a child. So we do have a devoted team. They're not Bethany staff, but we use them almost exclusively.
Okay, you have to give me a number. How do you put a price on a child? What kind of number would that look like? Are we talking about $500, $200, $100?
It totally depends on what type of adoption the family is interested in, and it depends which Bethany branch you're working with. So I'd be happy. Anybody can call our pregnancy support line or go to an adoption orientation and actually get those numbers.
Wow, you never think about numbers in kids. I mean, outside of how expensive they are, I mean, just on an everyday basis, but I would never thought about that, because most of the listeners know we did real estate, and the amount of closing costs and just taxes and things of that magnitude. I think they were saying you should have at least $2,000 or $3,000 set aside just for closing costs and things of that magnitude. So I can only imagine, how much I guess would you call it closing costs on kids? The closing cost amount on having things of that magnitude. Okay, so once they're done with that and we've gotten the paperwork done, they come to the hospital and pick up the child, or what does it look like?
So Bethany tries to handle each one of those different areas of time with grace. And so we actually have interim foster families, and baby goes home with that interim foster family most of the time for those 10 days, because should the birth mom change her mind, and some of our adoptive families have been trying to have their own children for 10 years, and then they've waited for between 6 and 10 months for an adoption placement. And so imagine if they took that little baby home, had it for a week and a half.
Oh, good Lord.
And
And then she changes her mind.
Yeah, so to deal with it very delicately, it actually stays with our interim foster families. They're called cradle care, and we need more cradle care parents. So I always like to put that little
I was
bug
giving
out
you that
there.
space anyway, so knock
Yeah.
yourself out. Now you get
Yeah.
it. Go ahead, you throw
Yep.
you two share, throw your sidebars in. This is all right, throw your sidebars in. I don't know everything, so throw it in.
My mother-in-law was ready to sign her and my father-in-law up for that one as soon as she heard about it.
Wait,
I know.
so that means, because I love babies, I don't like kids, but I love babies, so
Yeah.
I can keep the kids
For 10 days.
for 10 days and then ship them off.
There you go.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
So, and then after that 10 days is up, then they actually meet at Bethany, and the baby is presented to its forever family. And I have actually gotten to be a part of some of those It's very emotional, as you can imagine.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. At one, it was a young married couple that had been trying for many years to have children, and then I think they waited 10 months for their adoption placement to be finalized. And then they brought the husband's mom. So she didn't even know. So she was, not only were they becoming parents, but she was becoming a grandmother. And so they didn't even know me. I was standing in the corner of the room like bawling my eyes out. Don't look at me.
I'm not even. I might actually would have two. I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie. I probably would have two. Okay, so then essentially there could be three variables in this, because the mother, then the temporary care for those 10 days, and then the actual family.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like this triangle thing that goes on
Yes.
throughout this process. Wow. Okay, so that's okay. This is I'm just as overwhelmed as you guys are. Like I did not know that there was an organization that had this many resources and that could actually walk you through the process. And I think if more people knew, we'd have a lot happier kids and a lot more, family placement, things of that magnitude. So I'm honored to have you ladies on. All right, back to you, Cheryl.
Yes.
Throw something in. What
All
you
right.
got? Throw something in.
Oh, well, I got something good to talk about. We, probably about 2 years ago, started a foster care program for youth that are in the Department of Juvenile Justice custody. And so these are youth that have some delinquent behaviors. Some of them may have been convicted of stealing cars.
So they bad.
or-
That's it.
they-
So they bad.
well,
That-
that's
so you can
probably-
say bad, but
They
they bad. There's some bad
They're
kids.
They have some
Temporarily,
bad,
there's some bad kids.
that's
Temporarily,
right.
there's some bad kids. Okay. I
That's
want to clear that
right.
up.
That's
I want
right.
to clear that up.
They have some behaviors that they're dealing with, but they are kids that are in detention that are getting ready. They're doing so well in detention that now they're being stepped down to a foster home. And so we have developed foster homes that are willing to take in these youth to really help mold them and be role models for them so that they can get the behaviors that they need that are going to be appropriate in helping them go out and be successful citizens in their communities to help them go home. And so this is a program, honestly, that I was a little intimidated in starting because working with teenagers is hard enough in and of
You know
itself.
what? Funny enough, I actually prefer working with teenagers.
Do you really?
I
Okay.
hate kids.
Uh-oh.
I have a strong distaste. I have a strong distaste for kids. I
Okay.
prefer teenagers because you
Okay.
can kind of shoot them straight.
good.
Like you
Yeah.
can be honest and
Yeah,
be
that's true.
upfront. Because I worked in the high school for a bit and I was brutally honest with
Yeah.
one of the girls. Like, hey, look,
Yeah,
there's some options that you don't want to consider if you don't stop this behavior.
yeah.
And it actually got through to her. And the counselor, I don't know what you said to her. Well, I'm not gonna tell you what I said to her, but that's just no. It worked. She's like, she's turned around, so you can shoot them straight. But I digress.
But no, that's absolutely right. And I think that a lot of our foster parents are really good at setting those boundaries for these kids, so that they feel safe to be able to heal from whatever they've dealt with. But we have actually a case that I want to share with you, and again, I can't say the name of the youth, but
Mystery F.
Mystery F, I like that. Mystery F came into our care, and actually the Department of Juvenile Justice could not believe that we actually got this referral on this youth because he was actually supposed to be in adult detention
Wow.
because of some of the convictions that he had committed. And so when we got the referral, the woman that supervises our program really saw something in him. She interviews all the youth before they come into our foster care program. And she saw something in him. She felt like all the things that were written in his file were not who this child was that she interviewed. And so she said, Bethany's going to take a chance on this child, and we're going to let him come into our foster care program. And even his parole officer thought he might last a week in this program and then he'll be back in detention. He ended up being with us 6 months, did so well in school, got back on his grade level because he was behind, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years in his grade level, and ended up going home and is doing great. And so I think that that's who we are as an agency. We really want to put that love of caring and just really helping children get to where they need to be. And so that's one of my favorite stories.
And on that note, I felt my heart flutter. On that note, we're going to take a break and we'll go on to our last segment talking about Bethany Christian Services with Andi and Cheryl. So stick around with the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. Oh, that made me feel all warm and tingly on the inside.
Yeah. So that was a great story.
All right, so we're going to our last segment. Anything y'all want to make sure is said or thrown out there?
So we have a big event on November the 10th, which I would love to put it out there. It is you can't miss. We have one of our Bethany greats that's going to be there.
What is it? Bethany Great. Is this
Bethany
going to be like a rock concert? 'Cause I'm down. I'm down. It's going to be a rock concert. 'Cause I'm absolutely down.
He should be world famous. So his name is George Dennehy, and he's going to be our keynote speaker. And he was adopted internationally whenever he was 2 years old.
I think so.
And he was born with a condition where he did not develop arms. So he was born without arms.
Oh, wow.
And he was in Romania, I believe. And in Romania, it's still like a really old school mindset that if your child is born with a deformity or some sort of challenges, that it is God not having favor on your household or things like that. So they're just abandoned. So he was abandoned in an orphanage, and the way he shares it, it was basically written in his file, do not love this child, he won't survive.
Are you serious?
Yes. So he was extreme failure to thrive. But there was a wonderful family from Pennsylvania, and they have a big farm basically in Pennsylvania. And he was their first adoption, and when I tell you what he's doing now, he's grown, he's married, he and his wife just had a child, and he is a worship leader at a big church in that area.
I am not surprised. Like, we will find our way to a good church, and if you got some skills, look, leading worship, I'm all for it.
So he's going to be sharing that full story, and then also he is going to be playing.
All right, so we're back in our last segment, and we're talking with Andi and Cheryl from Bethany Christian Services. I have been overwhelmed with the information and just the processes that they have in place to ensure that these kids find great homes, great temporary homes, and mothers as well. I do have one question, because I know that in working with Dr. Humans, there were issues with diversity, like having minority families to place minority children. Is that a factor? Would you guys need more minority parents, things of that magnitude? I'm sure you always could, but, what does that number look like?
I'll defer that one to Cheryl, because she really works with them.
Absolutely. I mean, we are always looking for all types of families, really. But in our infant adoption program, we do have a shortage of African American families coming forward to adopt African American infants. And so we're always going out into the churches to talk about the need for this group of children. We also, just to kind of throw out there, are always looking for, I think Andi kind of mentioned it earlier, but looking for folks that are willing to adopt and or foster older children, school age and older, as well as sibling groups of 3 or more children. That is a huge need in our state. And so, we always get a lot of families that come to us that want the babies or the young toddlers, and the reality is that a lot of those children just are not free for adoption. And so, we have to let them know that this is the reality. These are the kids that are in foster care needing permanent homes. And so that's the group that we're really looking to get families to want to open up their hearts and their homes to.
Okay. All right. So, really quickly, because I know what the state looks for in potential families. What does that look like? Like, what if somebody was considering it? What would they need?
Absolutely. Basically, the requirements to become a foster or adoptive parent through the state of Georgia or through Bethany is you can be single or a married couple. You do need to be 25 years of age or older to go through the process. There is no income requirement. We just look to make sure that you can meet your monthly expenses, because many of these kids will come with financial assistance from the state. The family will get a monthly per diem to help meet the needs of the kids. In your home, you do not have to have a huge home. You can live in an apartment. But we do want to make sure that you have space for the child, to make sure that they have their own living space. Children are able to share a room with other children, but there are some other requirements regarding that, but kids can share a room. I think one of the big myths out there is when we come out to do your home study, that we're going to be looking to see if there's dust under the bed and to make
The
sure
white glove inspection. Yes,
know,
the white glove
exactly.
inspection.
And that is absolutely not what we're looking for. We are really looking to make sure that this is going to be a safe environment for a child. So we're making sure that you have a working smoke detector. If you have a pool, you have a fence around the pool that works. And things like that to make sure that the child's going to be safe.
Okay. All right, want to put that out there because like I said, working with Dr. Humans, I know there's always a shortage, particularly of minority parents to place minority kids with. All right, so tell us about the event.
So before I hit on the event, I do want to give a little plug out there on how you can get connected with Bethany if you've heard anything during this time.
I was going to do that,
Oh.
but since she wants to jump the gun, carry it.
Our website is bethany.org/Atlanta, and there is an events tab and there's a meetings tab. So all of our orientations and interest meetings are on the meetings tab.
How often do they have those things?
We actually have 2 this week.
You don't seem excited about that.
That's right.
At minimum once a month. Ideally, that's where we want to keep it. And but this month we actually had 2 churches come forward on completely opposite sides of the state. One is in Buford. It's at the Bridge Church tonight, and the other one is in Cartersville tomorrow evening. So since they were on 2 different sides of the state, we decided we can do 2 in 1 month. But there is 1 a month through the remainder of the year. So, and we try and hit all different areas. So we, like in Buford and Cartersville, we have one at Peachtree Presbyterian, which is basically in downtown Buckhead. And then we have them in Cumming and in Columbus. So we are just looking for more churches to step forward and say, hey, we'd love to host a Discover Bethany event where people can learn how to get more engaged in adoption and foster care.
Okay. All right.
So there's that. So part of my role is to raise funds for Bethany, and we do have one big fundraising event each year, and it is our fellowship dinner. It's coming up on Friday, November the 10th. It's going to be at Villa Christina. They're a great partner of ours. And our keynote speaker is a you can't miss speaker. He is just such a story of what one can do whenever they're faced with tremendous challenges. So it's a young man named George Dennehy, and he's going to be sharing his adoption story about how he was born in Romania. He was born without any arms, and was basically in his chart at the orphanage stated that this child won't survive. Do not love him. And
I still can't. I can't get there.
It's hard to imagine that there's that type of mentality in some places. And so he was connected with a family through Bethany here in the United States, the Dennehy's, and they adopted him when he was a small child. He was extremely underweight, had lots of issues because he'd been neglected and underfed, and so he had a lot of immune problems, and obviously he had some physical challenges. But now they have raised him, and they have 2 biological children, and they have 9 special needs adoptions. So they
God, what
they
kind of magic home is this? This is a magical home. I feel like I should go. It's like a magical home.
And
That can be great.
George was the oldest. His next brother was adopted from Bangalore, India, and he again was born without any arms. God has equipped them specifically to raise up strong, independent children that have challenges. And so now they both drive.
Wait. So they got some
Yeah.
bionic arms, or we got a souped up car?
That is how independent they are. They drive with their feet. And whenever we were booking
Wait.
Yes, it is true.
Okay,
Yep.
I'll buy that. I'm sure it's true. I'll buy
Yeah,
that.
it's true.
But if you're using your feet to do the steering wheel, how are you pressing the gas and the brake?
So one does the steering. So you use your right foot normal. Gas, brake. Left is the one that does the steering. My favorite is seeing the video where he buckles his seatbelt with his feet.
Wait. I digress. Carry on.
Yes,
I'm not even, because I have
He
50,000
is,
questions.
like
I'm
I
inquisitive
said,
like that. Like, I have to see it.
A tremendous young man. So drives. He got married about 3 years ago. He and his wife have a little boy, and he now serves as a worship minister for a large church on the East Coast. So he will be sharing his full story, and then he'll also be playing a musical instrument.
Okay, stop it. I'm not. No, he can drive and play an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like an underachiever. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
All right,
Listen,
so
can't miss events.
and what's the date on that?
It's Friday, November the 10th.
Location again?
It's at Villa Christina, and it can all be located on Bethany's page, bethany.org/Atlanta, under the events tab.
All right, final thoughts, ladies. Y'all have about 3 minutes. So you go first, then you go. Final thoughts, nuggets you want to leave with the
All
listeners.
right. So, Bethany, like you said, we want to continue to expand to meet the rising need for children across the state of Georgia. In order to do that, we need more church partners, more individual partners, more families, more corporate sponsors. So if you have any interest in serving families and children across the state, and you really want to give, because that's what I have found in my role with Bethany, is people want to give. They just want to give to an organization that is making an impact and that is being very financially responsible with their donated dollars. Come and see us. We have tours once a month. It is a no pressure. There's not an ask related to that. It is just an informational session about Bethany, and you are invited to do that.
All right.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing I just want to put out there to folks is that we are always in need of families to foster and adopt older children and sibling groups. But I know that some people out there, that may not be where their heart is. And so we are always looking for volunteers to come help with. We have a Christmas party for our foster children each year. We do a foster parent appreciation that we're always needing help with. So if you have the heart to volunteer, that is something that is definitely needed, and we'd love to have you.
And it just go to the same website. And
Yeah, same
Yes.
website. Mm-hmm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great show. Thank you, Andi and Cheryl, for coming on.
For having us.
I'm overwhelmed, but I'm excited because to know that there's an organization that's doing this great work makes me feel better and makes me feel all warm and tingly on the inside. And I did my little part today to give them the platform. Andy's information will stay on the website. Again, visit the website and visit my YouTube channel, which is up. And this will be the second show on my YouTube channel. Have a great week. I will see you again next week, same time, same place, on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. All right, ladies. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys say goodbye to the YouTube people.
Bye.
Say goodbye to the Facebook people.
Bye, thanks for joining.
And Facebook, I will post the better version of this from my other phone for YouTube in about an hour. So I will see you guys later. Thank you for YouTube for coming back and tuning in again. I will see you again, same time, same place, on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.